Hi, I'm Katie, your safety trainer, and in today's video, we will be talking about scissor lifts. Have you ever seen those scissor lifts on a work site or maybe during a film shoot? They're super handy for getting us up to those higher spots, aren't they? But here's the thing. While they're a regular sight and very helpful, they can also be a bit tricky if we don't handle them right. So in this video, we're diving into the world of scissor lifts. We'll touch on the different kinds you might encounter, some of the risks involved, what gear you might need when up there, and the best ways to keep things safe. Oh, and a heads up, depending on where you are, the rules and regulations for these lifts might be different. Like some places treat them like scaffolds, others as elevating platforms or even aerial lifts. If you're scratching your head about which rule applies to your scissor lift, no stress. Just have a word with your supervisor. They'll sort it out. When you're on a job site, you'll likely notice a variety of scissor lifts buzzing around, each uniquely suited for its purpose. There's the hydraulic scissor lift that uses fluid power. It's a staple and you'll see it quite often. Then we have the electric scissor lift, which is battery operated and often the go-to choice for indoor tasks because of its quiet and clean operation. If you're on a site that demands a bit more muscle, you might come across the diesel scissor lift. It's built for heavy lifting and is pretty robust. Now, if the terrain's a bit rough or uneven, the rough terrain scissor lift is the one that takes on the challenge. It's rugged and designed for those tricky landscapes. Ever heard of lifts powered by air? That's a pneumatic scissor lift for you. No need for electricity or fuel, it's all about air pressure. And then there are the vehicle-mounted scissor lifts. Imagine a lift that's hitched to a truck, making it super mobile and handy. We also have self-propelled scissor lifts. These don't need pushing or pulling, they have their own drive. And finally, for those unique jobs that require something out of the ordinary, we've got specialty scissor lifts, custom built for those specific needs. When it comes to scissor lifts, there's a whole world of hazards that not everyone thinks about. Think about a time when you bumped into a table and knocked over a glass. Pretty annoying, right? Now imagine that on a much larger scale with a scissor lift tipping over because it's on uneven ground, or maybe it's a windy day. That's a whole lot of mess and danger right there. Now heights can be both fun and scary. When you're way up there on a lift, the last thing you want is to feel unstable or to reach out a bit too far and risk a fall. The same goes for dropping stuff. I mean, we all hate it when we drop our phone, but imagine heavier equipment falling from that height. Not cool. Speaking of heights and big machines, there's also electricity to think about. You remember those power lines running overhead? They're easy to overlook, but if a lift touches them, we're talking potential electrocution. Then there's a whole challenge of moving these lifts around. It's not as simple as driving a car. There's a real risk of bumping into things, or worse, people. Plus, there are those weird accidents you hear about but never think they'll happen to you, like getting caught between parts of the lift or being close to overheated components. But here's the biggie, fires. It sounds wild, but things like battery issues, flammable gases, or just refueling can lead to real fire hazards. It's not something to play around with. Anyway, while scissor lifts are fantastic for many reasons, it's super crucial to stay aware and keep safety top of mind. If ever in doubt, always reach out to someone more experienced, like your supervisor. All right, let's chat about what you wear when working with scissor lifts. First things first, slap on that hard hat to protect your noggin. Then you've got those safety glasses or goggles protecting your eyes. Now imagine you're headed to an exclusive event. You'd want to be seen, right? That's where the reflective vest comes in. This way, nobody misses you when you're around the lift. Don't forget those gloves. They're like the perfect accessory, giving you a better grip on tools and protecting your hands. And speaking of gear, let's talk shoes. No, not the latest sneakers, but closed-toed or even steel-toed shoes. You want solid footing and protection from anything that might drop. Now, the fall harness might not be the most comfortable or stylish thing, but think of it as your safety net. If you're up high and things go sideways, that little number is going to be your best friend. Oh, and if things get a bit noisy, pop in some hearing protection. Last bit of advice, always give your gear once over before starting. If something's off or damaged, don't risk it. Let your supervisor know right away. All right, so you're about to work with a scissor lift? Cool, let's chat about some things to keep in mind before you get started. First, let's play detective. Take a stroll around the area where you'll be using the scissor lift. Look out for anything that might be a problem, and if you spot something off, let your boss know. Weather can be a sneaky thing, especially if you're working outdoors. A gust of wind or a surprise rainstorm can ruin more than just a picnic. Make sure you know what the day looks like weather-wise. If Mother Nature's got some drama planned, chat with your supervisor. Now remember that manual that came with the lift? Yep, the one that's usually stuck in a drawer somewhere. Dig it out and give it a read. It's the guidebook to your lift, and it's got all the juicy details you'll need. If you can't find it or it's seen better days, don't be shy about letting your supervisor know. Before you hop on, give the lift a once-over. It's like checking your car before a road trip. You want to make sure everything's working right and nothing's out of place. Anything looking weird? Tell your boss. Now give it a quick test drive. Make sure it's all smooth sailing. If anything's acting up, it's time to hit the brakes and chat with your supervisor. Those stickers and labels on the lift aren't just for decoration. They're like the warning signs on a roller coaster. Make sure they're all there and readable. If not, guess who you're going to talk to? That's right, your supervisor. Lastly, think of the area around the lift as your VIP zone. Make it clear, maybe with some cones or tape, so everyone knows it's a designated area. Alright team, that's the rundown. Remember, the scissor lift isn't a toy, but it can be super handy when used right. Stay safe, keep your eyes open, and let's get lifting. Alright, now that we've set the stage for using a scissor lift, let's dive into some of the key do's and don'ts when you're actually up there doing the work. Think of it as a backstage pass to safely soaring high. First up, remember the golden rule. Only those who know their stuff should be on or operating that lift. Just like you wouldn't let just anyone drive your cart, right? If you're still in learning mode, ensure you've got a seasoned pro guiding you. Now, clear heads are crucial. Operating a scissor lift isn't the time for any kind of buzz, whether from happy hour or that prescription you started. Feeling a bit off? It's chat with a supervisor time. Stable ground is like the foundation of a great building, a must-have. Make sure your scissor lift is on even terrain. Think of it as parking your car. You wouldn't want it on a slope, would you? Climbing up or down the lift? Pretend you're hiking. Always have 3 points touching the surface for stability. And remember, those gates aren't just for show. Make sure they're closed and locked. If your lift requires a fall harness, think of it as your lifeline. Secure it to the right spot and double check it. Safety first, always. Got tools? Sure you do, but let's keep them stowed or secured. We don't want any surprise airborne objects. Now the lift does have weight limits. It's a bit like an elevator. You wouldn't cram in more people than it can handle, right? Always stick to the rule book, both from the manufacturer and your workplace. Taking shortcuts or trying to get creative can lead to trouble. That means no climbing on guardrails or using other props to stretch your reach. Moving the lift around? It's like driving. Know your route. Be mindful of overhead hazards like power lines and always be alert. Not sure how close you can get to those lines? Your supervisor is just a shout away. Stay aware, keep your movements controlled, and remember, reaching too far can lead to a tumble. And if the weather's looking stormy or windy, maybe it's time for a rain check. All right, that's the scoop. Keep these tips in mind and you'll be safely reaching new heights in no time. Wrapping things up, think of scissor lifts as a bit like roller coasters. They can take you to thrilling heights, but you've got to follow the rules to ensure the ride's safe and smooth. A minor slip-up can have major consequences. Remember, it's not just about getting the job done, but making sure everyone goes home safe at the end of the day. Always lean on your training, the manufacturer's guidelines, and your company's playbook. These resources are your best friends on the job. Still scratching your head or unsure about something? Your supervisor is there to help. After all, when it comes to safety, there's no such thing as a silly question. So stay safe, stay informed, and reach for the stars safely, of course. That's all for today's lesson. If you like this video, look for us on social media. And remember, stay safe out there.